I am Dequitem, an armored fighter in non-choreographed night fights. And today is the end of the year. And I want to talk with you about some behind the scenes, about all the cool death you saw in the last year. But before we start, we are here at a castle. Yes, a real medieval castle. This is the Elensburg, so the castle of misery. No joke. There isn't much to see about this castle because it was mostly a wooden castle on a really big rock, so I have a nice view from here. And we have this small hole here with a very beautiful room inside. It's not very big, but yeah, I enjoyed it to sit in there, but it's a little bit dark to film there. So I'm here in the snow and gets wet and very snowy very soon. So we have to hurry up and start with the first project of the last year. So the first project I was filming was with Onyx, where he decided to ride on his horse, took a lance and charged me in a good chanter. Of course I survived, so it doesn't count as the first death, but this was not only a cool fight with brutal death with a dagger fight in the end, but it was also very risky. So I'm now inside and I hope the audio is okay. After that big project with Arne, we started a samurai serial. And one of the coolest fights in the first duels I had with the samurai armor was my fight against my friend Martin in an archer kit. And Martin shot me with his hunting bow. And a hunting bow isn't like a war bow in a big scaling with a huge amount of pounds. So his bow was actually only 35 pounds and the arrow was blunt. There wasn't even a steel tip at the end. But he left a very big dent on my samurai helmet. And there I noticed, yeah, the steel quality wasn't that great. And I put a lot of effort to reinforce the whole samurai armor. But I think the coolest fight with that samurai armor was actually the first one with my friend Noah. He is an expert in many Asian martial arts and definitely now how to use katanas and other blades. He fought with my O-katana and a tanto blade and was able to kill me a couple of times because I didn't wear full chainmail over my whole body, and therefore there were gaps where a katana blade or a tanto blade could slip in. But in the one I decided to publish, I was able to kill him too. And it was definitely an epic fight because I was definitely injured here in the armpit and I would bleed out if no one helps me. And of course we are always or nearly always alone out there in the forests and landscapes and castles, and therefore we don't have a team, but we have to act like this is a real film set. And therefore I cried for my servant, my squire. But yeah, of course there is no squire, so no one ever appeared and I died. But it made a fun story around it of a knight dying alone there next to his enemy who he killed before. So I think with full mail armor I wouldn't died in that situation. but the real scary story behind it was this was the third fight, and the fourth fight ended very drastically because Noah didn't use gauntlets at that moment. So he had only the samurai armor parts of mountain armory, and therefore he had no hand protection. And we both thrusted to each other with our very big blades, and unfortunately I pierced his hand with a very big rounded tip and a feather sword, and he was pierced here in the hand, and I pulled it out and ripped some of his blood vessels out with it again, and it was messy. So these are training swords, but in the end they're simulating weapons, so what did I expect? After that filming, I decided to put 2mm leather gloves under the gauntlets to protect the hands a little bit more. And Noah said to me that he will fight the next time with gauntlets that protect him better. But then the next fight was actually me in samurai armor against him with no armor at all. So it went a little bit more crazy. And we had that amazing Ronin versus samurai fight. And in the samurai armor with the longer naginata, I was so overpowered that I didn't took him serious. And in the end of our second fight, he was able to took my tanton and thrusted me under the samurai helmet into my ear. So my ear was a little bit bloody. And then I took that hit and knew, okay, I would be dead now. And acted falling on the ground. So I was fine. My ear was only, the skin was scratched. So my ear was fine. But that could have went different, and I'm very happy that he didn't put a lot of force into that thrust, and the angle was more sliding onto my skull. So it only ripped a little bit of my skin from the ear, but it's all fine again. Afterwards we had another fight in samurai versus knight armor, and there he had his gauntlets in the end, and everything was fine. But knight armor is definitely much more powerful in duels than samurai armor, and therefore he didn't had a lot of chance, and I had a big advantage. But here comes the story behind it. So we started the filming at 7 o'clock, and we had a 2-hour drive to the location, to the park. So we had to stand up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and when we arrived there, I bring up some yogurt, and that wasn't, and I gave him one that was a little bit old, and he had to shit the whole time, and it was terrible for him, and he couldn't fight properly. But he died nicely, and I finished him nicely, but he had to shit, and his whole stomach hurts the whole time. Wasn't that nice for him. Okay, next story. I really like fighting him, and he is a very good fighter, and therefore I asked him, hey, I want to make a Viking versus samurai fight, and I have some friends who have some Viking armor, and I will ask them to give me the Viking armor. So I invited him that we can start early in the morning again to drive to the next film location, and therefore he stayed at my home the whole night before, and also saw my family, so my son, my wife. And at the next day he thought, I can't harm this dad. His family needs him. And so he holds back, and he regrets that because I didn't hold back and knocked him out for real. And after that, he tried full force, and these fights on that day were crazy after that fight. So we gave up nothing. And he swore to me that he will never, never hold back on me again. And I can say we did a second Viking versus Samurai filming this year, and he didn't hold back, so he broke my knee. And I had a 2-month break. Luckily, it was perfectly timed with another injury that I got in another fight. I have to tell you about a story behind the high medieval knight fight against me in late medieval armor. And there I did a beautiful knockout that unfortunately broke the nose of my opponent. We had 5 fights at that day, and this was the 4th fight, and he wanted to hurry up so that we can start the next fight and continue, because it was raining and not very nice outside. So he decided to hurry up, put his helmet on, and don't use the chin strap. And he regret that, because I pummeled him, not once, not twice, I think 3 times or more. And I broke his nose, and it was bloody. It spread over his whole face, and when we took the helmet off, there was so much blood in his face and his eyes that he couldn't see anymore. And it looked like I did something to his eyes, and we were so scared all on the set. But in the end, all was fine. But here comes the next story to my injury, because we trained for another filming that we didn't make yet, because I was a little bit scared about the weapon combination he took for the next sparring where we prepared our next filming. He took Warhammer, because he looks a little bit like Robert Baratheon, and I think I can act a Targaryen with my blonde hair. We don't talk about that. But so we decided to take Warhammer, 200 Warhammer, a very big one, against a sword. And the sword has, in my opinion, the bigger chances to win. But unfortunately, he hit the perfect strike to my hand, to my thumb. And it was on the blade and was broken. So, next story. Even before my injuries, I had my Knight versus Legionnaires fight. And this fight had some nasty kills. And I think one of the most brutal deaths I had in this year. My opponent fell to the ground after a couple of strikes to his back. And then I decided to finish him. I'm pretty precise with striking and thrusting and all that stuff. And I decided to strike very hard strikes next to his face. So exactly here. And then I saw, oh, he didn't move his head. So I have to strike again. But now I angle it that I hit the side of the helmet, but the force goes to the ground, but it also pushes him to the side. And that was so scary to him that he couldn't stand still. It was mid-fight, so he didn't know what I will do, because it's non-choreographed. It's a real fight with blunt and safe weapons. Safe. Also in this year I had the collaboration with Dash Render, and we had an awesome fight with brutal death as well. And one of the deaths was a turnaround after he nearly got me. Dash is a very well-trained Jiu-Jitsu practitioner, but he's not used to use daggers in fights. And in that turnaround, After he tried to, punch my face into the ground, what actually worked well through the helmet, I felt it, and I had a little bit of pain in the neck for the next days after the filming. So it wasn't nothing, but of course it didn't knock me out. I had a helmet on, and I was able to pull my dagger from my scabbard at the same time, and then was able to push him with my elbow, and it was close for his eyes. I didn't expect the dagger to be that long at the blade, and it was very close to his eyes. And after that, I pushed the blade here next to his neck, and unfortunately it was in front of the camera, so you can see that I missed him. Luckily I missed him, but for the for the action it looked a little bit too far away. It was here and not here, but safety first. Many people believe that one of the craziest things I did in this year was a crossbow shot that I took to my head. But actually I can say it's not the biggest deal. A crossbow will not penetrate hardened steel, even the bigger ones. We had a couple of very nice kills because we filmed 7 duels at that day. 7 duels doesn't sound much if you only fight around 1 to 2 minutes, but I can tell you 7 duels is a lot of fighting for a full day. The real craziest thing I did this year was the mace strike from horseback, but I can tell it will not kill you with the best helmets. It will not knock you out with the best helmets, but I can tell you, if I would wear this small scale helmet for a peasant, I would be dead. And then the end of the year, we had a big filming where I took all the money from Patreon of the whole year and invested it in some extra camera stuff and to organize a big film event in collaboration with Paralite Works. So we filmed the short film 1647. Yeah, it's actually only 6.5 minutes long, and I hoped it would be longer, but I decided to only show the most beautiful pictures and make it stand out and not so long. In that filming process, I had a lot of beautiful death. Of course, I also acted and not only filmed or worked as a director. I also acted. That's not always a good idea because it's hard to direct something and tell how the actors should place if you're in another position than the camera. So I can't recommend it, but we had to do both, and I had great support from Ludwig and Adrian from Powerlight Works, and they did an amazing job in directing as well. So I was able to take some roles as well. We had 2 great actors on the set and a lot of HEMA practitioners and reenactors on set as well. So we had people like Dennis Thieme, who is the German champion in saber fencing and rapier fencing, to help to do some fight scenes. But I decided to cut them all out. Sorry, Dennis. The siege ladder was a very old wooden ladder that actually wasn't made to hold up a couple of people on the same time. So I will climb the ladder, then the main character will climb half of the ladder, and then another people attempt to climb there. But we are Germans. If someone says to us, do that, we don't think a lot about it and do it. And therefore, we had a couple of people who hold the ladder and were screaming for acting the whole scene. go up, forward, forward, on the ladder. And yeah, so the people did it. And the ladder was only supposed for 2 people. And I was on top in 5 meters high, or 6 meters high, or even more, I don't know. And was holding there at the wall. And then 3 other guys jumped at the ladder, and it was so shaking around, and I was so terrified of falling down there, and I was holding at the top of the wall, and you can't jump to the other side for real, because on the other side it goes 4 meters down as well, so the whole wall isn't supposed for climbing to the other side. It's a nice wall to defend, because, and that was the most dangerous part of that filming. Of course, we had an awesome kill of me in the end as the knight with all the muskets at point blank, but actually there was only gunpowder in it, so I didn't die for it. And yeah, knight armor can resist musket shots at a fewer distance, and there are sources that tell you to shoot at point blank, that there's a high chance that a knight armor will withstand even the bigger musket rounds. Then thanks for watching. I hope you had a great time watching me doing stupid stuff, and I will continue it in the next year, but stay safe. Don't kill your training partners, and bye bye.